In early January 2021, the mysterious and tragic death of Christine Angelica Daguerre shocked the Philippines and captured widespread media attention. Her sudden passing in a Makati hotel room on New Year's Day became a high-profile case, not only because of the circumstances but also due to the questions it raised about social norms, safety, and justice. Christine, who was 23 years old at the time, worked as a flight attendant for Philippine Airlines Express. Our social media presence highlighted her as a vibrant young woman with a close-knit group of friends and a loving family. Known for her outgoing nature, beauty, and charisma, Christine had a growing online following, and her life looked both glamorous and full of potential. Christine was born on April 13, 1997, in General Santos City, a major city in the southern Philippines. Raised in a family of 5 children, she was the second eldest and had always been described as sociable and compassionate. After completing high school, Christine attended the University of Mindanao. Her interest in beauty pageants and modeling led her to participate in various contests, which helped her gain recognition. In 2017, she participated in a Miss Universe Philippines pageant, placing as a runner-up. This experience opened doors and encouraged her to pursue opportunities in the public eye. Dreaming of traveling the world, Christine worked hard to fulfill her ambition of becoming a flight attendant. In 2019, she joined Philippine Airlines, marking a major milestone in her life. As her career took off, Christine's social media presence grew. With over 160,000 followers, she became something of a modern Filipina icon, sharing glimpses of her lifestyle, work, and travels. Her posts showed her as confident and happy, reflecting her lively personality and love for adventure. But behind her social media presence, Christine also faced pressures and the responsibilities that come with working in a demanding profession. To celebrate the end of 2020, Christine made plans with friends for a small New Year's Eve party at the City Garden Hotel in Makati, Metro Manila. On December 31, 2020, Christine checked into the hotel with 3 close male friends, Rommel Galidu, John Della Serna, and Gregorio de Guzman. These friends, whom Christine trusted, had been part of her social circle for some time. The group booked room 2209, intending to enjoy a relaxed, intimate gathering. For Christine, this night was supposed to be a brief escape from the routine and a joyful celebration of the upcoming year. The gathering started on a cheerful note. Laughter, music, and toasts filled the room as the small group celebrated together. Christine was the only woman among her friends, which reportedly made her feel at ease, as she trusted them deeply. However, the night soon changed as more people arrived, and the party became less private. 8 additional men, whom Christine didn't know well, joined the celebration. This brought the total number of attendees to 12, creating a different atmosphere than originally planned. As the night continued, alcohol flowed, and what had begun as a small, close gathering turned into a more crowded, chaotic celebration. On the morning of January 1, 2021, the celebration at the City Garden Grand Hotel took a tragic turn. Around 1,000 Rommel Galidu, one of Christine Daguerre's close friends, found her unconscious in the hotel room's bathroom. Christine was lying in a bathtub, fully clothed but unresponsive. Initially, Rommel thought she might have just fallen asleep or was deeply passed out due to the previous night's drinking. But as he tried to wake her, he quickly realized something was wrong. Her skin felt cold, and she wasn't responding. The other friends present in the room were alerted, and a sense of panic took over as they attempted to check for a pulse or any signs of breathing. Without delay, Rommel and the others carried Christine out of the room and rushed her to Makati Medical Center, hoping the medical staff could revive her. Upon arrival, however, the attending doctors pronounced Christine dead. Initial examinations suggested the possibility of a ruptured aortic aneurysm, a rare but often fatal medical condition. However, given the bruises on her body and the unusual circumstances surrounding her death, her friends and family were left in shock and disbelief, and suspicions began to surface. The nature of her injuries and the suddenness of her death raised questions, not only among her loved ones but also among the police and the public. While Christine's death certificate initially cited a ruptured aorta as her cause of death, A combination of factors, her young age, her appearance of good health, and the visible bruises on her body, made the situation seem unusual. Authorities initiated a formal investigation to clarify what had led to death. As news of Christine's sudden death spread, so did speculation, outrage, and suspicion. The authorities quickly began investigating, treating Christine's death as a potential case of homicide. Public interest intensified as initial reports mentioned that Christine had sustained physical injuries, including bruises on her legs and arms, leading to allegations that she may have been sexually assaulted before her death. This theory gained traction, fueling public outrage and creating a demand for swift justice. The Makati police initially took into custody 3 of the 11 men who were in the hotel room, including Rommel Gali and John de la Serna, questioning them as primary suspects. In a highly publicized press conference, police officials described Christine's death as a possible rape-slay case, which intensified public anger and set off a social media storm. Christine's mother, Sharon Dakera, echoed these sentiments, calling for justice and insisting that her daughter had been a victim of foul play. The suspects, who were friends of Christine and primarily members of the LGBTQ community, strongly denied any allegations of sexual assault. They insisted that Christine was their close friend and that they would never harm her, explaining that they were not romantically interested in women. This claim, however, was met with mixed reactions. Some members of the public expressed sympathy toward Christine's friends, while others remained skeptical, believing the police's initial stance that a crime had been committed. A public debate surrounding the case was intense, with people across social media platforms divided on the circumstances of Christine's death. The case also highlighted broader social issues, as Filipinos voiced concerns about women's safety, the role of the LGBTQ community in society, and the trustworthiness of law enforcement. As the investigation into Christine Dakera's death unfolded, several conflicting theories emerged, each fueled by new forensic findings and intensified public scrutiny. Early in the investigation, initial reports of bruising and physical marks on Christine's body sparked public suspicion of foul play, with police hinting that she might have been sexually assaulted. These statements set a powerful narrative that was quickly amplified by media coverage, painting the event as a potential rape-slay. However, the official autopsy report raised significant doubts. The initial forensic examination indicated that Christine had suffered a ruptured aortic aneurysm, a severe but naturally occurring condition that can be fatal, especially if undiagnosed. This medical explanation complicated the case, as it suggested that her death might have been due to an underlying health issue rather than an external cause. The report noted that while there were minor contusions on her arms, knees, and thighs, there were no definitive signs of sexual assault or trauma consistent with physical violence. Public reaction to this finding was mixed. Some people argued that an aneurysm, while plausible, did not account for the bruising. The police initially presented the bruises as potential evidence of physical harm, possibly from assault. Others speculated that Christine may have fallen due to intoxication, injuring herself accidentally, but that the bruises could have resulted from attempts by her friends to resuscitate her. In response to public pressure and the Dakera family's request for further investigation, authorities conducted a second autopsy. This re-examination aimed to provide clarity, but ultimately returned similar results. The primary cause of death was confirmed as a ruptured aortic aneurysm, with no concrete evidence of foul play or assault. However, some medical experts pointed out that aneurysms can be exacerbated by factors like heavy alcohol consumption, stress, or even underlying genetic conditions, which could have contributed to the rupture that night. Despite the findings, multiple theories continued to circulate. Supporters of the murder theory pointed to inconsistencies in the witness statements, unusual bruises, and the way Christine was found fully clothed in the bathtub. They felt these details suggested an altercation or mishap. Others were skeptical of any foul play, noting the medical reports did not support the assault claims. The absence of DNA evidence or physical trauma also cast doubt on the initial accusations. As these conflicting perspectives persisted, the investigation took on a highly charged atmosphere, with public opinion divided. The media coverage, compounded by social media speculation, created a complex web of narratives, and each new piece of evidence or report added another layer of ambiguity. The case highlighted how conflicting forensic findings can lead to a multitude of interpretations, especially when compounded by public emotions and media pressure. After months of analysis, re-evaluations, and intense media scrutiny, the authorities reached a formal conclusion in Christine Dacquer's case, ruling her death as a natural occurrence due to a ruptured aortic aneurysm. The official autopsy report determined that Christine's death stemmed from this underlying health condition rather than foul play. Her friends, who had initially been held and publicly identified as suspects, were officially cleared of wrongdoing, with the investigation citing no conclusive evidence of sexual assault or physical violence. The decision brought a close to the criminal investigation, but opened a floodgate of complex emotions and public reactions. For some, the official conclusion was a relief. Christine's friends, initially viewed with suspicion and stigma, were vindicated by the evidence. Many of their supporters expressed relief that justice prevailed and felt anger toward the investigative bodies and media for prematurely labeling these individuals as suspects. Social media channels erupted with calls to support these men, who had endured accusations and scrutiny under a public spotlight that many felt was unjust. The Friends' legal teams also spoke out, calling for accountability for the damages these young men suffered due to rushed judgments and sensationalized coverage. However, Christine's family, especially her mother, remained outspoken in their belief that the investigation was incomplete and potentially mishandled. They questioned the credibility of the findings, expressing dissatisfaction with the forensic analysis and alleging that authorities may have missed key evidence or ignored details that pointed to foul play. Sharon Dacquer, Christine's mother, publicly advocated for reopening the case, arguing that justice for her daughter had not been served. This sentiment resonated with many Filipinos who remained skeptical about the police's handling of the case, especially after the initial portrayal as a rape slave by authorities. Public sentiment remained divided. Some sectors of the public sympathized with the Dacquer family, feeling that unresolved questions still cast a shadow over the case. This group felt that the bruising found on Christine's body, though minor, could have pointed to trauma that required further explanation. Additionally, they raised concerns about potential flaws in the forensic protocols, questioning if external factors such as alcohol could indeed trigger an aortic rupture under the specific circumstances of Christine's death. These speculations were fueled by the perceived lack of transparency, with some critics feeling that authorities had been too quick to dismiss the family's concerns. On the other hand, many members of the public criticized both the police and the media for their initial handling of the case, arguing that the portrayal of Christine's friends as suspects had set a damaging precedent. The media's initial coverage, which sensationalized and mischaracterized the circumstances, had led to irreversible public perception issues and polarized communities. These people called for more responsible journalism and accountability, not just from the investigative authorities, but also from news organizations that had amplified unverified claims. In the end, the official conclusion provided a legal closure, but left lingering questions. The case became emblematic of the dangers of rushing to judgment and highlighted the impact of social media on public perception in high-profile cases. The nation was left grappling with complex emotions surrounding justice, grief, and accountability, questioning how effectively the system handled cases under intense public scrutiny. Christine Dacquer's death and the subsequent investigation became a touchpoint for larger societal issues within the Philippines. Our case ignited conversations about women's safety, media ethics, and the role of public opinion in criminal investigations. To this day, Christine's story is referenced in discussions about how young women navigate social environments, even among friends, and how public assumptions can impact justice. The case left a complicated legacy. On one hand, it raised awareness around women's safety, especially in social situations where alcohol and casual relationships are involved. Many women in the Philippines identified with Christine's story, fearing for their own safety and questioning how much they could truly trust their peers. Her death became a rallying point for advocates pushing for safer social spaces and better awareness of the risks women face. Campaigns on social media called for justice for Christine, evolving into a broader movement emphasizing women's empowerment and safety. On the other hand, Christine's case cast a spotlight on the sensationalism and speed at which information is disseminated in today's media landscape. Critics argued that the rush to publish, the premature assumptions of guilt, and the widespread labeling of Christine's friends as suspects reflected the pressures on news outlets to attract attention, often at the expense of due diligence and ethical responsibility. This sparked calls for media reform, with many demanding that news organizations adopt stricter standards for reporting, particularly in cases involving sensitive allegations. News outlets face significant backlash and scrutiny, with some journalists publicly reflecting on the potential harms caused by the reporting. Additionally, the case highlighted potential gaps in the country's criminal justice and forensic investigation systems. Christine's death raised questions about the adequacy of medical and forensic protocols in the Philippines. Some legal experts argued that the case had shown the need for better training for law enforcement officers, clearer guidelines on evidence handling, and improvements in forensic standards. Advocates called for reforms to ensure that future investigations would be handled with more care, precision, and transparency to avoid similar controversies. Finally, the lingering ambiguity and unanswered questions kept the case in the public discourse. For Christine's family and supporters, the desire for additional investigations persists, with calls to keep her memory alive as a reminder of the importance of accountability. I argue that only a reevaluation of the evidence, possibly with international forensic experts, could definitively settle the matter. Though the case is legally closed, its emotional impact endures, representing both a personal tragedy and a collective challenge to societal institutions. The aftermath of Christine Dacquera's case led to a powerful movement for reform, with calls for change echoing across multiple facets of Filipino society. Public outrage over the handling of the investigation sparked widespread demand for greater accountability and responsibility in the media, policing, and forensic science, as well as an urgent focus on women's safety and public awareness. The case, now a symbol of systemic flaws and societal challenges, highlighted the need for improvements that would prevent similar tragedies in the future. The role of the media in the case became a central point of contention. From the initial hours of reporting, Christine's story was sensationalized by headlines that depicted her death as a raped slay, a claim that was later disputed by the official autopsy findings. Media outlets were criticized for amplifying unverified claims, which not only influenced the public's view but also stigmatized Christine's friends who were initially suspected. This led to widespread calls for reform in media practices, with public advocacy groups and journalists alike urging news organizations to adopt more cautious, ethical reporting standards. Recognizing the harm that can arise from irresponsible reporting, several major media outlets committed to internal reviews of their practices. They pledged to adopt more rigorous fact-checking procedures and emphasized a shift away from sensationalism, especially in cases involving sensitive allegations. Journalists and media analysts began referring to this shift as the Dacquera effect, underscoring the lasting impact Christine's story would have on journalistic standards in the Philippines. Law enforcement also came under scrutiny for its role in the case, with the Philippine National Police (PNP) facing significant backlash for its early public statements that classified Christine's death as a suspected murder without concrete evidence. In response, police officials acknowledged the need for reforms, both in the way they manage investigations and in how they communicate with the public. The PNP issued new guidelines for handling high-profile cases, mandating sensitivity training for officers involved and encouraging restraint in public statements until investigations are complete. These measures were intended to prevent future cases from being prematurely labeled in ways that could mislead the public and harm the reputations of those involved. The case also prompted significant discussions about the state of forensic science and resources in the Philippines. Questions arose over the adequacy of the autopsy procedures and the reliability of forensic practices, highlighting the need for improved facilities and expertise. In response, lawmakers proposed increased funding for forensic departments and advocated for partnerships with international experts to establish more thorough forensic protocols. These reforms aim to enhance the credibility of forensic investigations and ensure a higher standard of justice for future cases. Beyond institutional changes, Christine's case resonated deeply within the women's rights community. For many, her story underscored the vulnerabilities women face in social environments, even in the company of trusted friends. Women's rights organizations and advocacy groups launched campaigns to raise awareness about women's safety, focusing on the importance of consent, bystander intervention, and the risks associated with alcohol consumption in social settings. These campaigns gain widespread traction as universities, workplaces, and communities across the Philippines embraced programs promoting safety and mutual respect. Christine's death became a rallying cry for women's empowerment, with her legacy inspiring efforts to create safer, more supportive social spaces. The case also highlighted the role of public awareness and media literacy in shaping societal responses. In the era of social media, information can spread rapidly, often without verification, leading to misunderstandings and public outcry based on incomplete facts. Recognizing this, educational institutions and community organizations launched media literacy initiatives to teach individuals how to critically evaluate information, distinguish credible sources, and avoid spreading unverified claims. The hope was to foster a more informed and discerning citizenry capable of analyzing high-profile cases without jumping to conclusions. These initiatives aimed to build a more media-savvy public that could approach future cases with both empathy and critical thinking. Christine Era's case thus left a profound impact, becoming more than just a tragic event. It became a catalyst for systemic change and reflection. Her story raised important questions about media responsibility, law enforcement practices, forensic reliability, and the safety of women in social settings. While the investigation may have reached its legal conclusion, the societal reflections and reforms it inspired continue to evolve. Christine's legacy lives on, serving as a reminder of the importance of accountability, transparency, and the collective responsibility to foster a safer, fairer society. The reforms and awareness sparked by her case promise to shape future generations, ensuring that her memory remains a driving force for meaningful change.